I'll probably go to the next person and ask, okay, because it's typical the Wozniak, the Steve Jobs mentality of, that's what IT looks like. You're a billionaire. So the question would therefore also be financially, is it even rewarding to enter an industry like that, especially for a young Black person?
Yeah, funny enough, I get that question a lot on my YouTube channel. People are always trying to get into software development or just the IT industry in general. And, there's obviously like a whole bunch of ways you can do it, but I'll just tell you guys about my journey. So I went to UCT to go study actual science. So this was back in 2013. Without even knowing what actual science was, I was just told that you're smart, go study this thing, you're gonna make lots and lots of money. So I was like, all right, let me try and see if I can do this thing. 6 months into actual science, I realized this wasn't for me. I was literally depressed. I wouldn't go to lectures. I was failing almost everything. I think part of the curriculum we had computer sciences, and that was the only course that I really gravitated towards. So I just switched my major to comp sci 6 months in, and then at the end of the year, I had failed most of my courses, and comp sci was the only course that I was doing well in. So I just decided I didn't decide. I actually got excluded, and then I had to appeal the exclusion, and then I was reinstated. After getting reinstated, I was given a couple of options to choose from, and computer sciences was one of them. Computer sciences and information systems. Although I felt computer sciences was a bit too technical for me, I needed to do something that had a bit of business in it. So I decided to go for information systems. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was doing my final year. I got a job at this startup company that was near my university. So while I was doing my final year, I started working full time at this company. It was a dev house. So we basically built products for other companies to use. After a year of working there, I felt like I wasn't growing, and I wasn't really, I thought the company wasn't aligned with what I was trying to do in life. So I just went and started exploring and applied at a few other companies. And I ended up getting a job with this other consulting company from the UK. Went through training with the company, and then they got me a job at Absa. So that's when I decided to switch from doing software development to doing DevOps, because it was quite interesting and it was something completely new. I didn't even know such a thing existed. So I did DevOps for about 2 years at Absa. And then after those 2 years, I felt like I was losing my dev side. So I decided to go back to software development again. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years now. So all in all, I've been in the industry for about 5 years, 2 years doing DevOps, 3 years software engineering, software development, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, so that's my journey. And in terms of how people can get into the space, so when I moved to Absa, I actually came across a lot of people that didn't go to university, and I was actually surprised, like, how is this even possible? So one of the guys only had matric, and he was a self-taught security specialist. So this guy literally, I don't even think he passed matric. So he just decided, he worked as a waiter back in Durban, saved up some cash, and then decided to start doing the certifications. And then once he had the certifications, he was fortunate enough to find a company that let him in. And then a few years later, he found himself working at Absa making a lot of money at ABSA. He was actually friends with our CIO, or whatever the case is. But yeah, just to show that you don't necessarily need to go to university and, I don't know, like pay hundreds of thousands of rands for you to get a qualification to get a job, only to spend 10 years of your life paying that back while you're paying other things, So yeah, it's quite an interesting topic, to be honest. And also, I feel like in South Africa, to be specific, like there aren't a lot of opportunities, especially for people that didn't go to university. So you might go and get your certification, but you need to know someone that works at a certain company for you to actually get in, because the first thing that they do is they ask for a qualification, which might be their way of, I don't know, filtering, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it's one of the questions I get a lot on my channel. People are trying to get into the space, and it's just, I feel like we need to talk more about it, especially as young developers, and also just try and maybe start our own side hustles so that we can employ people, and then they can go to these companies with a bit of experience and credentials. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, Peter.
No, I appreciate that. And I think beyond just your particular field, I think a lot of industries and people in different fields face the same challenge, whereby the pressure of your qualification, and then once you get your qualification, you can assume that okay, I've seen these pamphlets and brochures telling me this is the kind of job I'm going to do, how much money I'm going to make, and then when you get into the job or you get into the market, then you see it's quite different. And I think it's quite challenging for a lot of young people to kind of face and understand that kind of complex situation that they have to put themselves in terms of getting experience first, improving their, maybe potentially going further education with certificates they can get into the IT space. I know there's probably a lot of boot camps one can join in to kind of advance and get different kind of certifications and so forth. And I think, those are kind of things that I think I would hope you guys can also kind of share insight on in terms of how one can kind of navigate that. Keith, back to you now. And I think there was a question I posed to Napo around the question of, income. And this person who asked me this question, I know it's quite a sensitive topic, but there's a typical stereotype that one works as an IT developer, data analyst, you work with AI in particular in your case, that, Keith is probably loaded with money, and his lifestyle is basically typing behind a PC, codes and all this different thing, looking at data, Excel sheets and all this different thing. Is that the actual truth? And how does one also manage the expectations, especially that one is starting their career? And how does one also manage going forward in terms of from a financial point of view? Is there opportunity for one to grow financially? I mean, particularly in your case, you're based in London. How is that in your particular case?
Yeah, so I know everyone looks at, these tech giants, Facebook and thinks, okay, Zuckerberg, we've all seen the movie. It's the sure way to become a multimillionaire, a billionaire. You just create one app and then you're done. But I think it's more like any industry. When it's new, there's a limited pool of talent and there's a high demand. So I think this is what happened a lot, where there was such a high demand for these skills, but they were it was a sort of a new space, and that made companies compete for talent and obviously raise a lot of the incomes that they offered. But with time, there are more people coming into the industry, and things regulate, and then you don't necessarily expect those inflated salaries to carry on. But what I think is most important, especially for someone who's getting into this space, is not really necessarily to focus on making what salary I'm going to get. I'm going to get the first job giving me, an X amount. Because in reality, what tends to happen is there are few big companies, the Googles, Facebooks. Yes, if you go there straight from university, you can get an amazing salary package. But not everyone can get in there. And these guys, they know they've big brands, they attract, the best people. So the competition is really cutthroat to get into those companies. But what you didn't think about is you look at it from a perspective of your whole career. You're not only looking to get a job and then, get the best salary at that point. The best thing you need to do is to get experience. And I don't know the situation in South Africa, but in the UK, there are a lot of small to medium-sized companies, which, everyone now is talking about data, right? Almost every company needs a data specialist in some sort. So there was a thing where every young person after university, or they just wanted to get into the big brands. And then when they fail to get into those big brands, but they're very competitive, they're like heartbroken, disappointed, and think, okay, I'm not good enough for this sector. But that is not necessarily the only way to go about it. So I think if you're a young person, yes, you can be lucky and get into these good companies, big companies that give you huge salary. But more importantly, I think, is to get your career started, even if you're working for a small company. And actually what you then find is when you go into some like a smaller size company, you do a lot more than what you do in a big company, sometimes 8 times, because you are essentially responsible for that function in the business. And this builds your confidence, this builds your skill set. And over time, if you are really someone who's determined and who's really, focused, I think you do okay. You still, get paid a lot of money based on your experience. So my advice to people, to young people, is usually, it's not really just about a figure, like, okay, I finished university, this is the figure that I want to get paid. Because if you don't get that, you then get disappointed and you sort of are clouded. Whereas, there are many alternatives. And even within the companies, one of the, it's a shock that I had when I started working for the company that I work for now is I thought, okay, the data science engineers, the engineers, these are the guys who get the big bucks, But what I then realized is actually the guy who sells the software to companies, because he sells it on a percentage of commission, he gets paid way more than all of us guys, So I think it's more of really mapping out your career, where you want to see yourself, and then starting from then doing the things. The money, all these things will come as long as you're doing it right. People will pay you based on what you can deliver and what you bring to the what value you bring to the company. So yeah, that's my view on.
No, thanks, Keith. And I think the reason why I think this question was important, was posed to me after the previous episode, is there was a mention around the challenge of people working for particularly startups, and especially if you're working for a startup, the challenge in terms of the responsibilities you're asked to do. Maybe you're not paid enough, but you have so much work on your plate. And for the exchange of that, people don't really get the benefit of the experience. But from your point of view, I think you've shared the insight that there's actually opportunities there for one to at least gain some experience and then grow to a bigger corporate or so. Mathabo, on your side, and I think as an extension to that question, do you think there's a lot of misconceptions around your particular field in terms of also, particularly if you're working with data? And I think maybe also to extend to the question, more so for Black people in the industry, is there also a challenge in terms of kind of a lack of growth, or is it a case of there's a stereotypical thing of where you go into corporate, You are probably a DevOps person, or you are a data analyst or data miner, architect, whatever the case be, that for one to grow the career, there's just a lot of hurdles. And would you relate to that, or is that not the case?
I'm actually passionate about this. So I mentored a couple of students. They come from, I remember now. But it was a company that would bring students, right? They come from different walks of life, engineering, whatnot. And what we did was you had to take a SQL script and you had to turn code into English. I don't like documentation. I'm sorry, I'm not about that life. But if you can't, for example, translate something technical, right, into English without losing things in translation, without being ambiguous, so you can have a conversation with a partner, you are more likely to get sponsors. You're more likely to get funding. So it's not just about making code work. You can make code work, and that's great, and it's optimized. But if you're not going to be able to confidently explain it, confidently have conversations, or maybe from a process analysis, when you're engaging with the client, will you be able to have those conversations with the clients, right? Making sure, or keeping relationships, so when you go to a stakeholder, they can call you by your first name, you know what I mean? It's chilled. So it's maintaining relationships, right? It's being able to make sure that you deliver the work and be able to sell it. So yes, you do have a degree. Yes, you do have your master's, but can you hold stand up? Can you make sure that, okay, so this is the offering that we have? Can you look at for example, software and licensing and whatnot, and how about we sell it in this form, right? So it's not just about the code. And what I tell the young associates at work is that open yourself to learning. You know what I mean? The person that can have a meaningful conversation with a partner or a manager, we want them, and you're more likely to get the promotion than a person that creates good code. And that's unfortunate, but it's the reality. Okay, so you have to open yourself into okay, yes, I'm going to deliver this, and I always tell them, treat yourself as a business. Okay, you're gonna deliver this piece of work. If my colleague delivers it in an hour, can I deliver it in 30 minutes? And then I explain how I did it and a better way of doing it next time, and it's ready. So it is, you have delivered on all those, you've delivered on the work, you have had the conversation with the manager, we are producing on time, and you're ready for the next one. That's what people want to hire. So it's not just the code, but it's the overall delivery that you're bringing in. The misconception of data and there's a lot, hey? There's gang. It's so, I think the way we work now is not like your traditional back in the day where you had a title and you could just bring in the big bucks. It's not like that anymore. Somebody that doesn't necessarily have a degree, but you can deliver on all those things. You can talk to clients, you can pitch, and you can. So say for example, you're pitching to a client and they agree and they're happy, and you know a bit of tech, that when you talk to a developer, you're not asking them how long will it take. You are giving them a high level that this is what I've done, and then at that point you speak optimization. If you could do that, then that is what they're looking for. So the misconceptions is that we come in and we think your quality of work will take you up. It's not going to take you up. It's more the soft skills. It's more the teaming. I'm part of the DNA diversity and inclusion. So from a teaming perspective, if someone has somebody that celebrates Diwali, from a project plan perspective, do you then consider that so that when Diwali comes in, you release them of work without compromising on targets and delivery? It's all of those things that you have to bring to the table that actually makes you shine. So I think we just need to change the culture of how we see work, and being open to stretching our capabilities. A lot of developers, I like my headsets and listening to jazz and don't disturb me, but it's only going to take you there, right? But if you open it up to having conversation, taking off your laptop, taking off your headsets and actually listen to conversations, how people interact, maybe try to build a library to help solutions in terms of if developers get stuck, this is where you can go, and also have a conversation with partners. Listen, we've built a library, That's going to increase delivery time, and from a code review perspective, it's already in standard, so we don't have to go through traditional code review that takes so long. If it comes from the library, it's good to go. So if you can have those conversations and be flexible and be agile enough to to see, so the ideal person, right, which I think people are looking for, is if you could go to a business and look at a business and have a business case that makes financial sense, you can build a business case out of it, and it's technically sound. That's what we're looking for. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I think one thing I caught on to, and I think this even applies to myself, is the importance of soft skills beyond just your technical abilities. And I think a lot of us get into the gist of, maybe I must be good at Java, was SQL, or the other code languages out there. And then if I just master all of them, and then here I am, I can easily just get recognized. And I think the challenge is if you don't have the soft skills, and I think you don't know how to also kind of explore a level of finding solutions and how to establish and communicate that. I think it creates a lot of challenges and barriers for one to grow into the career. Zinhle, I don't know if you kind of can relate to this, particularly since that you also have a team with you that's under you in terms of your role. And I know you're also passionate about entrepreneurship. Do you relate to the aspects of, in terms of misconceptions, in terms of your particular space and how one navigates career growth in that aspect?
So yeah, I just to echo what Mathabo has mentioned, I relate very much with what she has said. Especially from my career perspective, I used to think that, goal is to perform well, be an overperformer, an overachiever, and then you'll get your promotions. But that was not the case. It doesn't work like in school where you write an exam and then if you pass, you get rewarded at the end of the year, or you get called on stage and here's your award, you've done well, and that's it. No, in the corporate, you have to sell yourself. You have to be out there. You have to, like she mentioned, you need the soft skills. Be engaging, be open to creating relationships. And it's one of the things that my boss has always, from the moment I joined his team, it's one of the things that he always emphasized, is that create relationships with senior people, because at some point you're gonna need support. You're gonna need these people buy-in from all these other people to get the promotion or the role that you want. So and that was it. He even made it one of my key performance objectives to create relationships with executive people that are at senior level. And at that time I thought, shoot, that's a very big task, because I was a very junior level. But over the years, I've seen how rewarding and how beneficial it is, just creating those quality relationships with people, making sure that your work gets out there. Don't just sit at your desktop and just writing code, whatever it is that you do on a daily basis, and then go home and then you think, that's it. That's not the way to grow. If you want to grow, you've got to be out there. I had to approach my manager and ask him to create a role for me, because there wasn't an ideal role or position within his area. And I've mentioned that I didn't want to move to a different space. I didn't want to leave the bank. I wanted to stay there because I saw there's still great potential for growth for me, but I needed him to create a role for me that at least would make me stay. So the misconceptions that you get, it's about that you've got to work hard and then you'll get rewarded. No, you have to be out there. You have to sell yourself. The awards that you get, they do add more weight, especially when you start going asking for a raise or asking for promotion, or even applying for a job at a different place. So yes, it's good to be to excel in what you do. I believe that also adds more value. It makes you more sorry, apologies, the call coming in. So it makes you an invaluable employee in the organization that you work for. And I've also seen this it's helped me grow, and I've seen myself also applying the same skills and knowledge in my side hustle. So another thing that we also need to apply as Black people especially is all these corporate companies that we're working for. Yes, we get our monies, we get our rewards, but we need to ensure that whatever skill that we learn from our 9-to-5s, we are able to apply within our own hustles. I think that's the only way that we can grow our economy, especially in Africa, where a lot of the big companies that are dominating are white owned, or they're owned by people from outside Africa. So it's important that whatever it is that you do, take the skills, take the connections, and apply it. See how you can start your own thing, how you can start your own hustle, using what you've learned from the corporate. Yeah.
Thanks, Zinhle. I think it's quite important for us to also kind of transfer the knowledge we gained from corporate space into our personal capacity in terms of our side hustles, and even just in terms of just side projects that you work on, because you never know how you can also boost your CV to also improve yourself to get a better job or so forth. So not limiting yourself to just the roles that are allocated to you, but also venturing to what else you can do for yourself. So I appreciate that. Napo, I think as an extension to the question, obviously you've heard everyone share their views around the other skills one needs to gain, but also there's a question around, for example, in your particular space, there's different languages that are important for one to learn. What kind of, let's say I'm starting my career as a software engineer. Okay, I hear there's these different languages. What should one be aware of in terms of, one, the coding languages that one probably has to kind of upskill themselves with, and where would it be important for me to learn these languages through, and how to navigate that now that I have these languages that I've mastered. Okay, now to the extension of the soft skills, I've now learned that as well. If I'm going to a company, and let's say there's no post, but I wanna sell myself to this company, what would you advise someone to do about in terms of, okay, I'm good at this? Because typically, and maybe this is a wrong question to ask, but typically there's a question around, you have to kind of present projects that you've worked on. And that's also the question, how does one kind of build a portfolio of, okay, I've done this, in your view?
What a question. So as Mathabo had mentioned, all programming languages are basically the same. What differs is the syntax, right? From the back end languages to the front end languages, everything is the same. What differs is the syntax. So it also depends on what you want to build as well, right? So personally, I started programming with Python, and at the time, Python was probably the easiest to learn. And then from there, I transitioned into C#. And I think C# is currently where I'm working, we use C#, Java, and all of those other languages. But I think with C# is a bit more, what's the term? There's so much that you can do with C#, from gaming to building web applications to building desktop applications and so forth. So it all depends on what you're trying to achieve, because what you need to think about as well is when you're getting into the space, you need to think about what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. So if you want to end up in corporate, then maybe try and learn Java and C# because those are the two languages that I use the most. If you want to get into, building websites and so forth, then go learn JavaScript, learn Angular, learn React, and all of those front-end technologies. And I find that the best way to learn programming is through Udemy. So that's what I've been doing as well to upskill. So Udemy, I think you can pay about 100 Rand to get started, sign up for a few courses. So they usually have courses from beginners, intermediate to advanced, right? So you'll just start off where you feel comfortable, depending on your programming background, and then you just take it from there. In terms of projects, I think as a developer, it's very important to always have a GitHub repository where you can always post whatever work that you've been working on. For instance, if you go sign up with Udemy and you start a course, whatever that you're learning on that course, take that code, put it in your GitHub repository so that when you go apply for a job, companies can see that this person has been progressing from, this level and they've now managed to build A, B, C, D, just so that you have that record and show the timeline that I've been doing this for this amount of time, right? So, so that's about that. And well, there's also YouTube as well, right? There's a lot of people that I personally follow on YouTube that have great videos explaining a variety of projects and different programming languages. So in terms of like the information, it is out there. You go to Google, you just, type whatever you want to learn. It will be there. It all depends on how much you're willing to put in as well in terms of the effort. Because, if I wanted to go learn how to become a content creator today, I can just go on YouTube and just learn that, right? And it'll all depend on how much I want to learn. And that's all it takes, really. So, that's it from me, Peter.
I really appreciate that. I think there's so much information out there, and I think